Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This is our first in a series of weekly Ask the Expert sessions that we'll be doing. We're starting off now, and then we'll take a short break for Christmas time and then resume again in January. But we wanted to get started and sort of introduce this type of a question and answer session to you. With me today is Don Lee, who's our senior consultant, one of our senior consultants in the Civil Infrastructure Group, and myself, Samir Haque, and I'm one of the Power Platform product managers also in Civil Infrastructure Group. So today's topic is what is Connect. So Don, just want to make sure that you're all good on your end.
I am good. I see a lot of people popping in today.
Awesome. That's great. Now, I hope you'll bear with us a little bit today. It's our first time doing these Ask the Expert sessions, so we hope for some good interaction with you in terms of Q&A. Right now, we have it all set to mute alls as we're sort of going through things here. We'll hope that you'll type some questions in, and myself and Don, as we move along, we'll be going through it. So let's get started. We really wanted to sort of just approach this first session with one of the most common questions that we get asked about is, can you explain what Connect really is? And we're going to go through some PowerPoints. We'll also spend some time doing some viewing of some web pages that are associated with the Connect Edition. But the Bentley Connect Edition essentially extends the power of all of our applications by including cloud-based technology. And we sort of hear this all the time about cloud-based technology these days, but it's here, and it's got a lot of great value. We are using the Microsoft Azure cloud, and we develop all of our cloud-based applications on the cloud technology from Microsoft. So one of the most common questions people ask is, can you sort of tell me what this cloud thing is about? Well, for most of us, it's been a storage area. It's an internet hard drive. That is a valuable resource in and of itself because you can access that internet hard drive from any internet-connected device like a desktop or your mobile phone. So you have one place where you store data, and multiple devices can access that single store of data. So that's a wonderful piece of technology to help us keep track of a single source of truth. The other thing that most of us don't seem to consider initially is that it really is a supercomputer. That is to say that I can throw lots of processors at a problem. So if I have a rendering that I'd like to get done, or an animation that I'd like to get done, or something complicated, and we'll go over some of these, you can start throwing processors at it. Go like, I really don't care. I want this done in 5 minutes. So I'm not going to wait 24 hours or 6 hours to get it done. Get it done now. And the other great thing about cloud is that it is our basic enabling technology for our future artificial intelligence and machine learning applications. So a lot of exciting stuff coming from the cloud, and of course the cloud connects us all. So that's how we got to the name Bentley Connect Edition. So let's take a look and see what we got here. There are several different portals that you can access Bentley Connect through, and as well as through the application directly. But we're going to get started with portals and looking at the portal experience because it's kind of an interesting starting point for most of us. Now, really, the portals are through a web browser, and in my case, I simply went, and in your case as well, you'll simply go to connect.bentley.com. And if you're logged in with a connection client, it will automatically recognize you and understand what you've been doing. So
I know all this, I already did it.
So Okay, so with regards to how it works is the portal here is tied directly to my projects and my specific activity, including things that I might want to do as well. So for example, here you can see I can learn about Connect. So figuring out how to get started with sharing content and finding training and all sorts of webinars that are based on the Bentley Connect Edition. So getting started quickly, pretty easy. You can access your Learn content right here. You'll notice that you have the ability of going directly to the Learn server, so you don't have to log in again, so know who you are. Makes life a lot easier. You can see your activity and all the apps you've been using, and yeah, I'm a lazy person, so I have no activity recorded. The quick access to a variety of very common things that you as a user might want is also available directly from this webpage. So you can go and download new applications, put in a service request, look at your existing service requests, and get product documentation. You'll notice new for this version, we've added in the Components Center, which is a place where you can share, usually, initially, three-dimensional or two-dimensional parametric cells with team members. So we'll take a look at that. You can also go take a look at some of your recent ProjectWise projects. Now, I'm going to talk about that in just a second. You also have upcoming events, and let's go back to this ProjectWise projects thing. So, ProjectWise here is a brand. It doesn't imply ProjectWise Design Integration Server. It's simply a brand that we use to describe multiple people working together. Now, multiple people can work together through a ProjectWise Design Integration Server, which is where you actually install some server software and then run it that way. Or in this particular case, you can connect people through the cloud, and hence the name ProjectWise applies here because it's a collaboration tool, whether it's the cloud or a server. So don't let that confuse you. So here in this particular ProjectWise project, I have one, and it has a variety of different properties. So you can see that I've turned on the ability to do a variety of different things, include connecting to SharePoints. I can actually connect to a ProjectWise Design Integration Server as well. We'll go through some of this stuff in just a minute, but you'll see that there's a lot of different aspects to a ProjectWise project here, or used to be known as a connected project, so you might have heard that term before. So let's go take a quick look and see what else we've got. So the personal experience, really, you can edit a few things here as well and make a few changes, but for the most part, it works out pretty well for most folks. When you go into the project portal, you start to see project activity. So here you can see when the project was registered, when the last modifications were made, what type of metadata is associated with this project. There are also your ability to manage team members of who's involved in this project. All the notifications that you might be seeing in relation to this project start to show up. In addition, you might also turn on notifications for other Connect activities. And then specifically for this project, there's a lot of ProjectWise connection services that we provide. Now, one of the most commonly used ones is the ProjectWise Share. So this is kind of like your internet hard drive. This is where you go and actually share files with other project participants. The Share works very much like your Google Drive or like Dropbox. And just as a common place for people who are invited to this project to share design files, or, well, actually any kind of file. We'll see other things in here too. We'll go over all these different features that you have available to you here. But you'll notice that they're all pretty much project oriented, dealing with deliverables for that project or the performance of the project. There are also other options available to you here with our optioneering services. And with optioneering, we're talking about taking a look at the variety of analysis options you might have available to you when you're working with something like STOD Pro or RAM. And coming soon, we'll do it with SACS as well. And then finally, down here at the bottom, you'll see that there's iModel Hub services. The iModel Hub services allow us to access some new technology. This is going to be sort of where you'll come to learn about how to do change management with the iModel Hub, how you might want to make sure that everybody is understanding what is occurring in a project in real time. And the design insights will provide you with insights into how you do your designs by harnessing sort of some of the things that you're doing with your design files, and looks for certain types of patterns and things that will report back and assist you with working with your designs. So the project portal, just real briefly here, go in and take a look at what that looks like. And Don, you can jump in anytime if you've got something to talk about here.
I was just going to reiterate on the ProjectWise side. So you're telling me that just because it says ProjectWise project, I don't actually have to have ProjectWise to get my content out on Connect.
That is correct.
Okay. So I can actively store files up into the share for consumption amongst the project team, regardless if they're inside of the organization or not. So and I add those team members, and I presume we give them access rights to be able to see those files.
Yes. So you can access a ProjectWise share that would include internal as well as external members. So you can certainly invite people who are outside of your organization to look at this share. And the share includes all sorts of things here. It could be images, it could be design files, iModels. The share also allows you here to stream out any kind of reality meshes that you may have. And you can also manage connections here, so I can actually work with a SharePoint site. So I can upload to SharePoint and it'll automatically show up here. Or also I can go into my Windows Explorer, and you'll notice that ProjectWise Share is available in Windows Explorer, just like your OneDrive would be or your Dropbox would be. And then if I put this in Windows Explorer here, I can actually dump files in this location and have it automatically synchronize. It does it every 5 minutes by default. Automatically synchronize with my website. So either way, I can go and put files in here and have it synchronized back to my hard drive, or put it in my hard drive and have it synchronized back up to the cloud.
So I have a question from Sam Worthy. He's asking if we can brand the Connect page or customize that in any particular way.
So going back to like this home page here, or the personal portal, or
So yes, I believe he wants to know, can he brand that page with his organization? And I will say that if you look at Samir's at the very top, we've got what I like to call the waffle in the upper left, followed by some breadcrumbs, if you will, that kind of begin to kind of go from the left over to the right. I think the only branding you're probably going to see here, Sam, is that instead of Bentley Systems Inc., you'll probably see your organization's name. Just so everyone's aware, these pages are pretty live. Samir, about how often would you say that we look at updating these pages and improving them based on feedback?
We do it every other Thursday. That's one of the other beautiful things about the cloud and the Connect system, is that we can release software, we can fix things and provide new functionality every 2 weeks.
Now, I have another question from Dan Barnhart about the file storage, and he really wants to know, is there a size limit that we're aware of for storing files individually?
There is no size limit. However, there is a limit to the number of files per folder. And so you're gonna have to break it up. If you have more than 25 gigabytes, you'll have to use more than one folder. And if I seem to remember correctly, it's about 100 files per folder. But
so just to kind of to play into the whole idea of sharing a file and dragging and dropping through my Explorer shortcut there that you showed me, if I was a guy out in the field with Navigator and you posted an iModel into the share and I belong to that team, you're telling me that I could open that iModel up on my mobile device.
That's correct.
If I have a data connection, of course.
So yeah, you can simply drag and drop if you wanted to. It'll tell you that you're uploading a file. That was really quick. It happened very fast. I can add new files. I can certainly come over here and grab something and rename it. We're doing all sorts of exciting things in here, actually. Obviously, I can't convert an iModel to an iModel, but that's okay. We're looking at some interesting things that we're going to be doing with this particular menu, or it'll actually also show up as a right-click menu. So here I can download this file, move it, rename it, delete it. And as the administrator, I can lock and unlock it. So this is kind of a new feature. In fact, this just showed up last week. So there's your example of every couple of weeks where something is new and exciting for you. So
and those updates, Samir, we kind of symbolize those, right, with those little yield symbols to kind of insinuate that this is something newly added to the web space, if you will.
Exactly. So you'll see these yellow triangles, or sometimes a yellow diamond, indicating that it's with a little black dot indicating that it's a new feature. Go ahead and have some fun with it. And it's still kind of a beta at that point. So try it out, give us your feedback, and if it all works out, or if you have any suggestions, let us know. We can make the appropriate changes. All right, let's move on. Take a look at what else we got in the Connect edition. So we have an enterprise portal. And the enterprise portal is about your organization, whether you're a company or a government organization. It allows you to view activity enterprise-wide in terms of users, in terms of applications. With regards to what you can do with the enterprise portal, really this is something that's only accessible by usually the CAD administrators, IT managers. You actually have to have permissions that are set up on the Bentley side that allow you to see this. So obviously we don't want a new user to come in here and change, license information or something, license management information. So here you can manage users. You can add and remove users from the Bentley Connect connection client and the entire Bentley Connect system. You get to decide what kind of entitlements they have in terms of the software and in terms of roles and permissions, what type of things they can do. Can they download? Can they do automatic updates? Control the licensing. What are people using? What are all the requests for service in my organization? And take a look at where you stand with discounts and how you administer your software. In addition, here's where you can actually also turn on that ProjectWise context share for your entire organization. Taking a quick look at what that looks like. So here's the enterprise portal. This is actually our Bentley system enterprise portal, so you can see that not much going on out there. But all of these you can sort of drill through and take a look at and get a better idea as to what's going on within your organization, specifically with your users and their access to software. All right, we've added a new thing as well, and this is our AssetWise asset portal. This allows you to manage your specific assets. So once you can go ahead and create an asset that you have, and then you can then connect, oops, back up there, I should have clicked. You can connect directly to AssetWise by using the correct AssetWise connection and repository names. At this point, you can then go ahead and associate projects to AssetWise. So you can take an existing project or create a new project for that asset and manage team members, and of course, modify all of the different things that you might want to with regards to the associations between that asset and the data that you want to use to manage it. So this is a brand new thing, lots of new, as you can see, lots of videos here, so quick and easy to learn how to use. So I want to spend a little bit more time on those ProjectWise connection services. And we looked at share a little bit here. So the share, of course, I want to point out a couple other features about share. Not only is it simple to share, but you don't really need to put in any IT investment. You don't need to put in hard drives and servers and make sure that they're up to date. If you have systems already, you can get rid of those custom systems that you have. And more importantly, and I really would want to emphasize this, it does mitigate your security risks. You may not think so. You're thinking like, what? Putting stuff on the internet is going to reduce my risk? How is that even possible? It does, because these cloud services, specifically, we're working with Microsoft, of course, they're very tightly managed and controlled. In other words, you might go away for a weekend and maybe the IT manager in your organization forgot to patch something, and your data is exposed for the whole weekend until they come back Monday morning. That never happens in the cloud. Those are actively managed, actively monitored sources, and so much tighter security probably than you would have in your own organization. So I know it gives people the creeps sometimes to put your data up there, but honestly, it's safer there.
I was an IT manager, Samir, before I came to Bentley, and I can definitely agree with you on that. The security on the cloud is much tighter than it would be with anyone's on-site security methods and protocols that they've put in place. It's just too easy for somebody to click on something, and next thing you know, a company's crawling into your network. So I agree.
And it also makes the whole concept of backing up easier as well, because you are backing up from a single source of truth, or you can back up directly to the cloud if you wanted to. Or if that's the only use you have for it, that's great too.
Personally, I like the idea that I don't have to buy any more hard drives.
Yeah, I've done that help request too many times. Another aspect of the connection services is our new component center. And you'll notice that this one, it's kind of hard to see in this view, but there's that little triangle with a dot in it. So we actually have released this for consumption right now. Right now, there's a couple hundred components that we've put up there for you. Basically, we took everything out of our street furniture for Concept Station and Open Road Concept Station, Open Rail Concept Station, and put them in there. Uploading as we are talking right now are our Lumen RT cells. So the cars, the trees, the people, all of those will be available directly through the Component Center. Now, this enables you to share and assign specific components to a specific project. So it speeds up those workflows where you can grab the correct cell, if you will, or the correct component. These are usually parametric cells for that specific project. And then, go ahead.
So what you're suggesting, Samir, is that I can spec out the parts for my project regardless of the barriers I might have of being in disparate locations?
That's exactly right. So sharing cell libraries can sometimes be difficult when you're in different offices. You may use a slightly different version of a cell. So to make sure that we don't have that kind of inconsistency in data by having, again, a single source of truth for our data, we can share this data consistently. And as we make changes, what the beauty of the system is that if we do decide to create a new component or modify an existing component, we've only edited it in one location.
Samir, I had a question about that content. How often are we, what have we been adding to this? I know
Yeah,
we've had some improvements. We added some Lumen RT information there most recently. Isn't that correct?
we sure did. Those are in the process of being uploaded right now. So, in fact, actually, I was looking at it, was actually processing those jobs as I was doing it. So I'm not sure if they're done yet, but I'll have to check. LumenRT data are all of our open, uh, I'm sorry, all of our concept station, whether it's Open Roads concept or Open Rail concept station, all the concept station cells will be also in there. And then we'll be adding some more specific things from various applications that we normally would distribute through those applications. So perhaps it might be windows from Open Building Designer or drainage structures from um, Open Road Designer.
So we have a question, Samir, from one user, and they're suggesting or asking, how can they get to the Component Center button? Is that something you could take a moment and show everyone where that's located?
Let's do it. All right.
Certainly for everybody here today, if you could, you can certainly either speak up or go ahead and throw your questions in chat, and we'll do our best to try to answer them.
So I'm going to follow Don's lead here, and I'm going to go for the waffle because it's almost lunchtime.
Love the waffle.
Yeah, I gotta love it. All right, so here you go. The Component Center, virtually everything that you have access to. Now, I might caution you, when you click on this, you may see different things here depending on your permissions. So some people have access to additional features. For example, I have access to the enterprise services. So if you don't see it, some of these things, that's just because you don't have permissions. However, all the stuff under My Services is accessible to everybody, and that's where Component Center is found. So simply by clicking on that, you're taken directly into the Component Center. And then from here, you can go ahead and start looking at, so I saw a couple of new things already in here. There's some vessels and some signs and some additional things that we're putting up there. So this is where you'll get it from. There's a process here. Don't want to go into too much of the details here, but as you pull them out of here, you can put them directly into cell libraries and then use your standard cell tools to place them. Okay. It's also available just directly from your connect.bentley.com.
Hey, so Samir, I have another question from Sam. He's asking about the ability to create a new project in the project share site or to connect a current ProjectWise project if possible.
Sure. Let's take a quick look at that. So this is all done through the project portal. And close my project portal. I'll come over here and let's see here. Actually, I'll just go to my projects right here. So there's where your access to projects is. You'll notice that currently I've set up my projects that I only see my favorites, but I could see recent and search for them as well. Now, if I wanted to create a new project, I would come up here and register a project. There is no cost to do that, so you can certainly just fill out all of this particular information. And there's where you can allow external team members. So there's your project registration page. And then when you've got an actual project, you can drill right into it and then go look at what you've got. So here's where I can come in and if I look at that ProjectWise share, if I went into share, then from here I can manage connections. So this is where I connect my share to a variety of different things. So currently I've got two connections. I've got my SharePoint connection, and I've got a ProjectWise context share. I can go ahead and select new connection, give it a name, and then decide what type of repository this connection is connecting to. So here you got to go grab your server URL and get your data source, username, password, all of that. So if you have I've got to put a URL in it. I don't have a URL at the moment, or at least don't want to show you our internal URL that we use. But here's where you simply type in the URL to your ProjectWise server, choose the data source, username, password, work area, etc., and you're good to go. So that's how you would connect to ProjectWise design integration, and then SharePoint, and then the content.
And I had one more question. It was about whether or not the DOTs were going to start creating their content out in a connected project. Just, I guess my response from being somebody on the civil side, I would say, perhaps you might want to reach out with a DOT specifically and ask them. I do know that there are some agencies right now that are actually creating connected projects for some of the open roads pilot projects, as an example.
Yeah, and they've been working pretty hard this last year in moving to the Connect Edition. So I think we'll start to see a lot of interesting things in terms of the connected and user environment in the DOTs starting next year. So another thing that Connect provides us is the ability to manage deliverables. And deliverables, of course, we always have this kind of issue with, did you get my work package? Has it been acknowledged? Have you, there's a response date, I need it turned around by next week. So you'll get reminded that, hey, by the way, you have a deliverable package that you need to take a look at. You need to review it and approve it, and then send it back to the person who sent it to you. And of course, this provides you an audit trail as well, so that you can go back and manage to make sure that things were properly acknowledged and managed during the deliverable process. So quite popular, actually. It's one of our most popular Connect services. So that's a big one. Then we have our performance dashboards, and these are project-based performance dashboards where you sort of see, I can see here I've issued some transmittals, but some of them are late in getting back to me. So transmittals with overdue responses, I can look at draft transmittals versus actually submitted transmittals. And a variety of other things can be displayed here with these dashboards. Now here you can see, some additional activities, so you can see where activity is occurring in this connected project. You can see how many documents are being edited and which documents are getting edited the most, which ones are being most actively modified. There are other things you can do here depending on which additional features you turn on. So in this particular case, I just had activity and transmittals being reported on. So this takes us to optioneering. And the idea behind optioneering is to examine all of the options that you have available to you when you're doing an analysis, so a trade-off analysis. So you want to evaluate design alternatives. And as you well know, if you've done this in the past with something like STOD or RAM, that they can take a long time. In other words, you usually use a very powerful computer to do this. So instantly, this is a standout feature for the cloud. Let's go ahead and run this analysis on a cloud because we've got a supercomputer there. That way we can compare models. We can run very large and complex models as well without having to worry about having enough RAM on your computer, having enough whatever on your machine. Now, I would caution you that this is the first time you start entering into the world of money. So, yes, it does cost money, honey. It is going to be, I'll talk about this at the end, actually, and it's relatively straightforward how we manage this process. But nonetheless, as you can see, um, we are going to be using computing time here, and if you throw a lot of processors at it, the amount of computing time that's required is increased, so that we're going to need more virtual machines, more processors, more servers, essentially from the data center, and that is where the spending limit comes in. So what is going on there really is all managed through one very simple thing, and that's the cloud services subscription. So essentially, the cloud services subscription allows us access to our Connect Edition cloud services. It does a lot of other things, like manages all your passports and visas to access your ProjectWise and AssetWise data sources, as well as allows you to do all of our managed services. So if you're using our software as a service, or some of our managed services are available through our cloud subscription. So that's, if you want to get into the details of how that works, you can certainly talk to your account manager, or perhaps your user success manager. You're certainly welcome to reach out to myself or Don, and we'll be happy to point you to the appropriate person to get those answers. So just sort of kind of wrapping up a little bit here, you just want to make sure that you understand that, the cloud really incorporates lots of different things. Obviously, all of your disciplines come together in the cloud. It gives you a single source of truth. I want to be really clear that this does allow for online and offline workflows. There are ways of doing this. So you do essentially work in a connected environment, but it is very flexible. So you are not mandated to log into anything for the cloud to for you to be able to use Bentley Connect. So it gives you this nice option of offline and online. Remember that there are a lot of analytics available. That's one of the other beautiful things about the cloud, is that it's a place where we can run reports on all of the data, because all the data is in one place. You can share just about anything you want to. There is no file size limit, practically speaking. There is, but let's not go there. And so you can, if you want to upload 100 gigabytes worth of data, feel free to do so. We don't have a limit on that. And of course, all sorts of other things like transmittals, submittals. And gosh, I've really just touched upon some of the basics. So I thought for a second, if I had a second, I'll jump into MicroStation and mention the fact that we now have a new Connect Services tab inside MicroStation. And of course, this allows us to go to a variety of different things, including the Connect Advisor. But it also includes things like our issue resolution service, which is also cloud-based. So I didn't really talk about it much, but let me go ahead and open this up. And these are issues that are, well, typically these would be like red lines, right? Check the slope, check the location. So these issues are classic red lines that we would have normally printed, written up with a red pencil, and then handed back to the drafter. But this is now a complete digital workflow where you create the red line. So I can go ahead and create a new issue. I can take a screenshot if I wanted to. I do need to. Give it a name. And so screenshots and comments are all available as well. This is a customizable form. That's actually what Fields Data Management does. So if you saw that earlier, these two things are tied together basically. So issue resolution is also available directly through the portal. In this particular case, I would go through the project portal to get to it. Because the issue resolution service is tied to a project. So these are all of the red lines for a project. You can actually go through and drill through to the actual DGN that you need to work on and locate those issues. So you can find all of those issues there directly. There's ways of categorizing issues as well. And well, actually, there's a lot of additional things it does, including your ability to import issues from a BIM collaboration file. So this is a really big change, really big one here for us. This BCF file format is a very popular file format to exchange issues when you're working with multiple platforms. Perhaps some of the project participants are using Tekla or ArchiCAD. And for those folks to be able to report a red line, they can do it through this data neutral format, the BCF. And so the BCF, we can import issues from there. It'll show up in your issue resolution service. When you get done, you can go ahead and export those issues to BCF. That way you can communicate issues between users who may not be using Bentley products.
So in this scenario, Samir, I could be the project manager utilizing this dashboard and kind of giving the go-aheads on various issues, or even closing them out because maybe it falls outside of the scope of our project.
Yeah, it's really quite interesting, Don, because I've noticed people do some really creative things with it. We obviously came up with it as a redlining system, a digital redlining system that allows people in the field with an iPad, for example, or tablet, to find a mistake or something in the field and then report it back to the office in real time. But I've noticed that people have done all sorts of other interesting things with it. They've actually used this to create a job aid. So, for example, it would have a job aid up here. It would say perhaps Ohio DOT terrain modeling. And then it would be these, instead of being issues, these would actually be steps. So step one, open a TIN file. Step two, and it would go through and show you how to do every single thing, because you can do screen captures here. So I can actually look at what the first step is, get an idea of what I'm supposed to do by looking at a screen capture. There may be some commenting in there walking me through the step. So this actually works out. It's really quite an elegant thing. It ends up being I mean, we think of it as a list, but you can use a list for a lot of different things, right?
Yeah, and that's actually a really unique way. I hadn't even thought about that.
So there's lots of cool stuff you can do with issue resolution. We have a lot more coming down the line with this issue resolution service. And I just kind of want to mention one more thing as we're here. The issue resolution service, as well as many of these other Connect services, are reliant on notifications. So we're all familiar with notifications for those of us who use Facebook. But in our world, it actually makes a lot of sense. So when you're assigned a new issue, you are then notified. When
so you're freeing up my email.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's probably centralized rather than buried in my email. That is very hard for everybody, to include everyone in the list to make sure they've really understood what's being communicated on the project. So this is central to the project.
That's right. So you can actually, I cleared my notification. Oh, here we go. All right. Here you can see I just got an invite, so then I can open it. So we're actually thinking of some really interesting things to do here. By the way, you'll notice notifications. That's a new one. We actually stole that straight from Facebook, I guess, or somebody. We didn't steal it. We just borrowed a good idea. And then we have a follow-up here. So tying it into something like Microsoft Flow where you could actually, when you click on open, it takes you directly to a dialog box or takes you directly into a file and into a specific tool, all sorts of interesting things that we can do in the future with notifications to say, okay, now that I understand what I have to do, take me there and show me what it is. Show me what it is that I have to do. So notifications kind of ties in all of this connected environment to keep you up to date as to what it is you are responsible for. Now we put it in product because a lot of stuff is in product and we can do interesting things like go to using Microsoft Flow or other things to go to a specific location. But you'll also find these notifications from your connection client. So if you open your connection client, this is actually kind of the linchpin. This is sort of where you come in to the connection world or the Connect world. I'm running MicroStation Update 11, which relies on the connection client for Connect licensing. But here you can see it tells me about new notifications, if I have new applications. And one last quick one here, if you go to Preferences under the gear, you'll be able to go to the Share. This is where you turn on Share Syncing. So this is what's syncing your local hard drive to your ProjectWise share. And there's some videos here to watch if you're not sure on how to do that. You can also control your notifications from here. And when you check for updates. Okay, so that's connection client. So, any more questions out there?
I was going to say we have about 12 minutes here. I didn't know if there was anything particular that anybody had questions about that we haven't really covered thus far. There's a lot in Connect. The waffle continues to grow, so we get lots and lots of titles in here. Are there any questions that anybody has specifically about kind of what we've covered thus far, or maybe they felt we didn't elaborate a little bit on one particular area? I don't know, Samir, it's a little too quiet for me.
Me too.
Yes. So Ed wants to know about the cloud processing costs.
Yeah, very good. Let's go take a quick look at optioneering and explore that a little bit more. So really this only shows up in one area of the Connect world. So issue resolution is at no cost, share is at no cost, deliverable managers are all no cost. When it really comes to punching these data centers in the mouth, well, that's where we do have some cost involved on our end. So when you go here, you'll have, well, first of all, I work for Bentley, so I have no spending limit. Obviously, it's not going to charge us. So if I click on that button, it'll say, "Don't be ridiculous. You're working for Bentley. go play." But when I come over here to optioneering, and I'm taken into the, I create a solution. I have the option here of going through, and you can see a select a performance level. Now, this is actually kind of what we wanted to sort of do for you. It's kind of you could sort of pick a number, or you could sort of pick a performance level. So once I pick this performance level, and the reason it's not letting me do it is because I'm a Bentley employee and it doesn't let me actually. I have to go through and turn on something else to make this happen. Actually. But the performance level, basically, you're saying, I don't really care that it takes a long time. Just do a standard, or I can just simply go to a higher performance level. It's like just throw as many processors and as much memory as you got to get this thing done. So that's really where that switch occurs in terms of cost. So really the costing is based on how fast you want the job done. So you pick your version and whatever additional things you're looking for, and go ahead and you create the solution. Then there's some files I've got to upload, of course, and all the rest of that. But at this point, it'll come back and let you know based on the performance that you've wanted to do. So you've got your option. You picked how fast you want to go, and then all the options you want thrown on top of it. Then you upload your files, and it will it will let you know about the cloud service what will be taken from your cloud service subscription.
So one thing I want to point out that's really nice about the optioneering or scenario services here is that for a lot of users out there, when you guys have had to do things that are basically heavy number crunching, CPU intensive, RAM hogging processes, one of the advantages here is that you won't be burdened with the the lightning strike or the power fluctuation, because all of this is being done out there in the cloud. And one advantage of that, of course, is that it's got so much redundancy on power and backups and all that you don't have to worry when it starts raining. For those of you that might be from Tampa, which is where I originally came from before coming to Bentley, once the lightning and thunder started coming out there, you're constantly hitting save or trying to get that battery backup going, and then you forgot you weren't connected to the server or something like that, and you start losing files. So it's one of the nice things about being out here, the scenario services out in the cloud. Just wanted to make that mention.
That's a great point. I've done so many animations over the years. I crashed after 16 hours of crunching. You're just like, why? And yeah, not only are the data centers backed up, and of course they fail over. So if something really critical happened, a data center would fail over another data center. You never lose your data. So other questions? Anything else we can show you, talk about?
So on one particular user's case, they went to look on the waffle for Component Center under the My Services, and it wasn't actually shown. So there's a good chance that it depends upon the role as to whether or not you have access to that particular tile. And that's going to be something under user management that you may have to converse with your fulfillment contact or your administrator of your Bentley contract. Hopefully that answered that question there. We have another one from Dan Barnhart now. He's asking, can I process my reality meshes with this while in the field to ensure that I've picked up what I want with my drone flights?
Oh, what a good idea.
It would be very nice rather than coming back to the office and realizing you missed that one photo you need, right?
Right. So from here, obviously, you do need ProjectWise context share, but there is a ProjectWise context scenario. I have to think of the actual name. It's a service that allows you to upload directly from your device, whether it's a phone or whatever you have out in the field, a laptop, if you've taken it and put it on a laptop, and then upload it to context capture. There's a ProjectWise context capture application. So the context capture application obviously is connected to your Bentley Connect user profile. So as you use your mobile phone or your camera, what have you, in the field, your drone, you can upload it directly, have it processed, and then distribute it through the context share if you need to do that as well. Or you can just look at the model as it gets processed and sent back to your device. So not only can you have it processed in the field, you can have people back at the office review it and say, hey, you forgot that. We need to go back and fly the drone over that area and get that too. So before you leave, you can have all your work done and have it checked. The app, by the way, you can get it from the Google Play Store, of course, iTunes Store, and that's the Context Capture app. Okay, other questions? All right, folks. If you do want to go ahead and reach out to us, I don't know, Don, if you just want to type in our email addresses into the chat window so that people can contact us if they have additional questions.
That is a great point, Samir. I am doing that right now.
Thank you. So I hope this was of some help to you today. I'm glad you're all able to attend. And thanks for taking some time out of your day and spending it with us. Take care, everyone.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone as well. You guys have a great day.